If everybody can go ahead and mute now, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, guys. Today I thought we'd try something. It's called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. You may have heard about this, but I'd like to take you through like a little a how-to so you can access and actually cultivate the ability to breathe through your belly. So when we talk about belly breathing, it's really about stretching the muscle fibers of the belly, which then actually signals the mind to relax the body and the mind. So there's an actual nerve that runs along the belly. So when you stretch those muscle fibers, it activates the nerve and it sends a signal to the brain to relax. So conversely, during stress, right, when the muscle fibers in the body tighten, right, if you're under stress, you can just feel that clenching and the tightening, we tend to hold the breath and we begin to breathe irregularly. We exhale incompletely, right? And when the exhalation is incomplete, not enough fresh air can enter the lungs on the inhalation because that old used up air is still in there. So the in-breath then becomes shorter, which in turn limits the amount of air that we can use to be expelled. And this is what leads to chest breathing. That, you see kids get this when they're frightened or when we actually stop breathing properly. And over time, with this continued physical tension that we might be facing or any emotional stress or anxiety that we face in our lives, chest breathing becomes a habit. So what I'd like to do is teach you guys to how to access the belly, and we'll go through just a simple like 2-minute belly breathing exercise. So to do this, you can do it lying down, but since we're all kind of at our computers, if you're sitting in a chair, I'll show you how to do it in the chair. So just give yourself some space, take your forearms, and you're going to put your forearms down on your thighs, and you're just going to bend over, like to really compress your belly. So I should probably just be seeing the tops of your heads right now. So just keep your eyes open right now, okay? And what I'd like to do is, with your eyes open, invite the inhalation to fill up the belly. Just inhale through the nose. And if you're not feeling your belly expand, bend down even further. And then feel the ribs expand. And as you exhale, release the breath completely. Try it again. Inhale through the nose, fill that belly up. Feel then the ribs fill, and then release it completely. I like to release out of the mouth in these first sessions to get all the air out. Let's do one more. Inhale completely through the nose, fill up the belly, fill up the ribs. And as you exhale, release the breath completely through the mouth, just like get it all out. Now we're going to close the eyes, okay? I want you to bring your awareness to your breath. Inhale through the nose, fill up the belly, and exhale through the nose. Inhale, fill up the belly, and exhale. Now continue your own cycle of breathing. And I'm going to ask you a few questions to think about as you're breathing. Are your breaths long or short? Are your in-breaths and out-breaths balanced? Or is one longer than the other? What parts of your chest and stomach are moving? Now take the biggest inhale through the nose, breathe it in, fill up that belly, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, and then exhale so slowly and completely. Release it all out. Now place a hand on your belly as you're still bent over. And inhale and notice whether you can feel the belly now expand on the in-breath. and feel it relax on the out breath. Next, simply notice each breath as it happens. As you inhale, notice that you are inhaling. As you exhale, notice that you're exhaling. Continue to focus on the breath. And when you're focused, and if it does shift, just gently bring it back to the breathing. Notice the breath entering and exiting the body. Notice the breath move through the airway from your nose to your throat as you inhale, and from your throat to your nose as you exhale. Notice the quality of the breath. Does it feel jagged or smooth? Does it feel rushed or slow? Does it feel shallow or deep? Notice the sound of your breath. Can you actually hear it? And what does it sound like? Notice the length of each inhalation. And notice the length of the exhalation. Count it out. Take a round. Are they even? Is the breath slowing down or speeding up? Notice the belly moving with the breath. Notice the rib cage moving with the breath. Notice the chest and the upper back moving with the breath. Be present with this moment. Feel the nourishment of the breath. And slowly, when you're ready, begin to sit up with your eyes still closed. Sit up. And take 2 rounds of breath and see if you can still bring it into the belly. When you're ready, gently open the eyes. Come back to our surroundings with our team. That is belly breathing.
Thank you so much, Claire.
How did that feel,
I
guys?
learned
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Who has gone into the habitual pattern of chest breathing?
Yeah, me. And I forget to breathe.
You forget to breathe.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is so, I thank you for this. My son goes through that. He's starting to do that. So he feels like he can't breathe, so it leads to anxiety, but I'm still gonna do this with him. So thank you so much, Claire.
Yeah, Haiti or Heidi?
It's Heidi, but everybody calls me Heidi. So either way is fine.
Haiti is my mother-in-law, Haiti.
Okay.
Hedvig, Haiti. But
Heidi.
teach him to do that breathing down and under because you actually access your belly because it
Yeah.
squishes your diaphragm and it makes you breathe into the belly. And it's
Yeah.
hard to explain that to children,
Hmm.
to anyone actually, to do belly
Yeah.
breathing. But if you push your body down, you don't have any other opportunity to breathe anywhere else. You can only
Yeah.
breathe into the belly. So that might help.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
All right, are we ready to have some fun with a little bit of information coming at us? 210 to 2.15. Sherry,
Absolutely.
would it be all right if I do I just need to press screen share when that happens?
I'm ready. You can go ahead and press screen share. And if you want to give like, what's the word I want to say? Shoot. Yeah. If you'd like to give a disclaimer stating that you're more than welcome to, if you want me to give it to you.
You do such a beautiful job. Do you mind just making
do
that
it.
happen?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Sarah, nor anybody speaking in this video or in this Zoom, is a professional that has taken the test and are getting paid to provide the information for it. We are all here to study together and to take all of our resources together and to provide the information to the best of our ability. And the things that we are providing is for educational purpose and information only, and hopefully education, and that we do get it right. And if we don't, that we'll be caring and considerate, and we'll throw out where we may see conflict and bring it together. So hopefully we are studying the right thing. So knowing that, we have the beautiful Sarah Krantz Owens that is doing our presentation today. So thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you so very much. Well, y'all, I am looking forward to this opportunity. I want to actually say thank you because if anything, I feel like my studying is being kind of turbo boosted because of this presentation. There's a lot of information too, right? I mean, it is a lot of information that we have today. I was going to attempt to keep us to maybe 10 to 12 minutes per competency. Some of them want a little bit more, some of them probably don't need as much, but if we do that, that way we get through all the competencies as best we're able, which means we're going to do broad strokes. This is going to be highlights. So my hope is we'll read the overview, we'll read the competencies that we're going to be talking about. I have, I'm so grateful that I'm using other people's handouts. So there's no, it's not going to be a PowerPoint, it's more handouts. They're all in the files. So at the end of each competency, I'll kind of run through any highlights so that you can see which handout we kind of followed today. Please know that this is absolutely a group study session. So if I miss something that you're just like, gosh, let's make sure we highlight that, please know that that is absolutely going to be a welcomed partnership in this. Okay, I think I have the other things that I was going to do is try to highlight why is this important? Why is this concept important? And what is the value for the coach and client? So if, as we go through, if we have that opportunity, there's a lot of overlap. So in the competencies as well as what we've met before. So again, we're going to just continue to weave a beautiful fabric of coaching as we go along, but maybe not hit the details as hard because we're going to see them over and over again. So Does that sound fair? Is that going to be useful for everyone tonight? That's all right. All right, rock on. All right, so screen share. Let's do this. Wow, that's what comes up with the screen share, huh? All right, let's see. Hold, please. Watch your eyes, avert your eyes so you don't get dizzy. All right, so this first one, 2.10, client awareness, perspective shifts, and insights. The overview for this part, the coach reflects the client's views. So we've already talked about that. Asks open-ended questions. We've already talked about that to enhance the client's self-awareness and foster new perspectives. The coach may offer positive reframing, i.e. looking at things in an alternative, more positive way to shift perspective, since positive conversations are more likely to inspire motivation and forward progress. The coach also listens carefully for the client's self-talk by the way they talk about themselves or judge their own behavior, and helps the client to consider more positive self-talk. So our two big pieces are positive reframing and positive self-talk. The competencies are reframing, addressing self-defeating perceptions, explore patterns related to the client's behaviors and decision tendencies, and then be aware of self-talk and adjust as appropriate. So on this one, I wanted to kind of start with the resource of the CPM and just talk a little bit about the science, right? So the science is negative emotions reduce the brain's ability to learn, to take in new knowledge and skills. It impairs the function of the prefrontal cortex. It impairs our access to working memory, which is the raw material for creativity. It hampers our curiosity and our cognitive ability and creative strategic thinking. So if negative emotions do that, we know how important it is to have positive emotions, right? So Kristen Neff does work with self-compassion. And we know that with her work with self-compassion, it improves our brain's ability to learn and change. Also, Barbara Fredrickson talks about positive emotions, that positive ratio. I know that there's a little debate on whether exactly if it's 3 to 1, but we can take that little test and kind of see where our positivity ratio is. And again, we know that positive emotions improves our resiliency, improves our attention, our open-mindedness, creativity. We get a little bit more strategic thinking in our perspective. So we know that positive is good, right? So we're going to be looking at that. So if we're reframing something, the information is the same, right? So the information that the client is bringing is the same information, and we're just looking maybe to help provide a fresh perspective, and give them renewed possibilities with that same data. It doesn't change the current challenge, but again, it might tap into these positive emotions, these positive opportunities for us to tap into our strengths and our values, to be able to have a different view of the situation. Again, it's not something that we're necessarily doing just as a coach, but it can be really positive if the client is doing the reframing. So some ways that we can do that as a coach is to elicit, I hear your disappointment. How could you use the next 6 months to lay the groundwork for a new business or a new direction? So having the client actually do the reframing is a really cool thing. Another thing that I found kind of interesting is this idea that reframing doesn't necessarily need to be a big aha, right? Sometimes reframing is just planting seeds. Sometimes reframing is helping someone maybe to go from no motivation to ambivalence. And sometimes reframing is maybe just helping to trigger better self-regulation with an activity. All righty. So far, so good with reframing. Any questions, thoughts? Okay, then where I want to go next is kind of Arlovsky. I'm not sure if I'm saying that author's name correctly, but Arlovsky's book talks about this inner critique, the inner critic, the gremlin. And what I really liked about looking at that is really keying in on our self-talk and our way of the self-talk is good enough for that. Some masterful coaches actually have provided the suggestion of, hey, during your first session with somebody, bring the opportunity of saying, hey, if I'm hearing your self-talk, maybe taking a negative angle to a situation, I might ask for permission in that time to stop and bring awareness to that self-talk in the moment. Because what we know is in the moment, bringing attention to it can be a very positive way of that awareness, and then maybe being able to do something about it. So I really enjoyed this idea of, even in our first sessions with someone, letting them know, hey, I'm going to be listening for how you talk to yourself, and use this as an opportunity to kind of set the stage for this in future sessions. But let's go back to this beautiful little gremlin or inner critic that Arlovsky talks about. Two things to remember is the inner critic has no relationship to our beautiful inner child. So the inner critic is definitely a critic all through and through. And the other piece to the inner critic, or this self-talk that might have a negative impact on us, is there's no killing it. It's not about transcending it and all of a sudden one day we don't have this inner critic around anymore. It really is, it's really about listening to our conversations, to our own conversations, to our clients' conversations. The key is to notice it and to catch it in the moment. And one of the tools that Arlovsky talked about is these 5 R's. To recognize it, to recognize maybe the negative self-talk, to refute it, to just tell ourselves this is not true, to have a fantastical way of removing it. So they recommend, the more fantastical, the better. So, imagine maybe just doing a little gentle drop kick to this beautiful little gremlin and get that inner critic out of your space. Take a moment to regain your self-confidence. A lot of times, using a beautiful affirmation in this moment could be a positive way of kind of regaining our self-confidence, and then returning to the present moment. So those 5 R's can be a really positive way of helping someone, if you're noticing their self-talk being negative, kind of helping them to become aware of it. In the recognize R, the first R, using the acronym HALT was a really neat tool that I never thought about. It was so nice that they make it into a nice little acronym there. But HALT is asking ourselves, if we're noticing that we're having this critical talk inside us, are we hungry? Are we angry? Are we the combination hangry? Are we lonely? Are we tired? And if we're any of those 4 things, in that moment, don't even further pursue, trying to talk something out. go take care of yourself, right? Take care of whatever is going on there. And then once that piece is managed, then come back and see if there's something there that further needs to be processed from a coaching standpoint or a self-coaching standpoint. So I thought that was really interesting to kind of have a couple of tools to be able to manage that. Another thing to be aware of is oftentimes as someone goes through the stages of change, the very success can trigger that gremlin or that inner critic to come out. That they talk about this gremlin being very scared when there's success being happening around it. So when maybe a client of ours is now experiencing a new success, there might be that tendency of having this negative self-talk come in, and that might be something that we can again just bring an awareness, and then know that we're not going to kill it, but bringing an awareness to it and finding a way of moving that negative self-talk along into a more positive spin. So looking at that reframing. All righty. One other piece that I thought was important on this piece, on this competency, is there are some times where that self-talk, that negative self-talk that we're hearing has really deep roots. And those deep roots might indicate that there is a need for a referring out. So, watch for that self-talk that has that self-hatred, or they're not increasing, giving themselves permission. There could be old wounds there that need a different type of support outside of the coaching profession. Arlovsky's, again, book 184 to 193, they talk about 4 areas that sometimes these deep roots can be situated. So this negative self-talk or not giving themselves permission might be because of low self-esteem. Their values, their beliefs, their cultural norms could be impacting them. The history, their family's history, and then they talk about myths, magical, and irrational thinking. So again, if you want to go a little bit deeper into that, Arlovsky was a really beautiful resource on this competency. And just to kind of tie this one up in a bow, small steps are powerful. So, we talk perspective shifts, we talk about positive reframing. It can be just a little shift to make a big difference. Okay. That is my quick synopsis of 210. Does anybody have any nuances or pieces of this that they want to bring to the group so that we don't miss it, or anything else that you want to say about this competency before we move on?
I don't have the Arlovsky book, and I love the last statements that you made, the 4 areas. I wrote down low self-esteem, cultural values and beliefs, irrational thinking. Which one am I missing?
History of the person and their family.
Thank you.
You bet. They talk about this, the transactional analysis theorists. I don't know, but that's what they say, that they have some something to say about these 4 pieces as well.
I love that. I know that I was just speaking with someone, and she feels that she has and is talking to someone else. She's also a coach, but she's talking to someone about generational trauma. It didn't happen to her, but it must have happened to somebody else in her family. And I see that that's how the history of the person in their family can really tie into that. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you so much, Sherry. Anybody else have anything that you want us to know as a group? Okay. Then before I move along with this guy, sorry about that. I just want to show you again, this handout is the handout that has all these beautiful colors for the different resources. And this person did just an amazing job of really deep diving. So I would just want you to see there's quite a bit of information that I didn't even touch on this piece. Maybe this piece, this awareness piece, I thought was pretty cool. This opportunity when we're noticing like a pattern in our activity, sometimes the awareness happens, initially after we do the behavior. Like, gosh darn it, I wish I didn't do that. For me, maybe I didn't need to go through that fast food drive-in. And then there's an opportunity, maybe while I'm in the drive-through, saying, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be doing this activity. And then maybe before, I'm almost going to turn into the fast food, and I become aware, and I'm like, nope, and get out of the drive-through line before I even get there. And then it's about not continuing the pattern, right? Okay, I know I'm going from point A to point B. How can I maybe not even don't even drive by a fast food person or a fast food place? But the idea is that we can really kind of look through where our awareness is, and again, looking at those small steps. But again, I don't want to make anyone dizzy, but there's just so much beautiful information. And Sherry, kind of this coaching for greater self-care and permission, this would be a nice little review of what Arlovsky's book was talking about there. And then all these beautiful pieces for the gremlin and the reframe. So again, the idea with reframing, it doesn't change the facts. It just shows the person that they're capable, resourceful, committed, and able to make progress. Okay. All right.
I did just put in the chat the link to this document. Sarah used one that is already in, like it was used prior. So I just put the link. So if you want to go ahead and download that, you can while she starts 2:11.
You rock. Thank you.
Thank
Very,
you.
very much. All right. I'm going to move on to, let's get to 11 up here. I think this is 2:11. Okay. So 2:11. This is a huge one. So we're going to really broad stroke this one. Coaching psychology involves eliciting a client's intrinsic motivation, which is based on the client's purpose, meaning, values, and preferences, and not the external sources. The knowledge and experience of a client, not the coach, are the raw materials for coaching conversations that facilitate lasting change. So these competencies, again, not to get too wordy, but elicit the client's perspective, really kind of looking at their perspective on all these different areas. Help the client to explore and articulate values, their sense of meaning.
Quick. Sorry, Sarah, your 2.10 slide is still showing. If you wanted to.
Son of a gun, I apologize. If I do this, does it? Nope. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can you tell I'm not a
tech person?
old school with mine? Yes, I am an old school. Let's see if I can find. All right.
I think you have to pull that document up and then do your share screen again, and it'll probably pull it right up.
All righty.
Unless you have a separate screen you can put it on.
Got it. Sorry, everyone. I am going to, let me see if I can. So it's this one. So if I can do.
Just a comment, just while you're figuring that out.
Please.
Client today, he kind of opened up his session like bad mouthing himself. He's like, I just don't like to, I don't work this way, and you'll get to know me, but this is how, and he just kept putting it out there, his negative ideas about himself, to kind of let me know. And I would have loved to have this document. I did the best I could, but this would have been great. And I'm going to read through this because I'm going to meet with him again, and I'm going to actually really study this. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Rock on. Oh, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, really great.
Now, Awesome. This piece that I'm showing you right now is not the document. Sherry, I will, the document that I was using is called the client's freedom of choice. You know what?
I see it.
I'll send you the,
I see it.
You got it?
Client's freedom
Okay.
of choice point PDF.
Yeah, and it
Is
has
Is it
at
that
the
one or the one with
bottom,
the underscore DCA with it?
it's the PDF. And it's the one, if you go to the second page, it'll say text information by competency.
Okay.
And it'll start with overview in blue. So
Oh, I got it.
that is, you guys, that is a 21 page, amazing, but a 21 page beautiful PDF on all of 211. But the one thing that how I wanted to hit 211 is actually to go through this one in a little bit more just questions. So if you are okay, this is another handout that we got, but I am gonna, the questions are in blue. So that's how we're gonna go through this competency. But before we do that, you can read that question. I'm going to go through the competencies one more time just to make sure I put those out there. We're going to elicit the client's perspective. We're going to help the client explore and articulate their values, sense of meaning, and purpose. We're going to help envision their optimal health and/or well-being. We're going to discuss and honor the client's preferences for self-monitoring without judgment, their accountability, and their mode for connecting in this competency. And then the two last competencies in this 211 are the self-determination theory and essentially motivational interviewing concepts. So I'm so glad that someone did a 21 page PDF for us to really dive into those details. But what I wanted to do on this competency, if this works for us, is let's go through this competency just looking at some questions and having some conversation around that. So does it work for me to say the question, or would you rather just read it and then everybody just start putting in their answers?
Go ahead and read it.
Read it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it and then feel free as you want to toss answers in the chat. A 35-year-old woman is on her 4th coaching session and has been working with a coach to manage her arthritis. She frequently gets flare-ups that set her back for up to a week. The coach says, "How is your arthritis impacting you today?" Client: "I have good days and bad days, and today is a bad day." The coach: "What does a bad day look like?" The client: "I had a flare-up, but I was able to repeat what I did last week and do some gentle yoga, and I felt much better. I know if I did more yoga, I probably would feel better most days." The client's response to the coach's question about what does a bad day look like is an example of what? Change talk, sustained talk, decisional balance, or empathy. The client's response to the coach's question: change, sustain, decisional balance, or empathy. This is brilliant. I love it. Let's wait for a couple more. Okay, well, let's have a chat about that. The answer that they gave is A. Would someone who gave any of the answers feel free to, would you mind sharing with us what made you think it was a C or a B? I think those are basically the ones that came through.
I'm not scared. I'll put myself out there. I did see that it is change talk, because obviously the client did come back to say that I did last week and do some gentle yoga and feel much better. I know if I do more, I would probably feel better on those days, so that she was able to repeat. which that is change talk. She is talking about changing as opposed to sustain talk where she didn't do anything. But it also seemed to me like that was a bit of a decisional balance. So she was saying, okay, I know I could have done that, but I did do this. So I think because she said she did do this, that's probably why it's more supportive of change talk as opposed to not knowing where she was on that decision. She had made the decision. So talk myself out of my wrong answer.
I think also one of the key things about decisional balance, I was right with you as well, because she's talking. So decisional balance is typically done in the ambivalent stage. And that's where they always connect it in the national board. And that's when you're weighing your pros and cons. So change talk, she's already been doing it. She wants to continue to do it. So she's not. Sustain talk would be in like contemplation, where you're just constantly saying, I got to do this, I got to do this, and you're finding reasons not to do it. She's actually finding self-efficacy for reasons to do it. And that's change talk.
Cool.
And not ambivalence.
Thank you. And again, I love the fact that there's a lot of different ways of kind of looking at this information and then just kind of bringing ourselves to, okay, as they say, it's going to come down to a couple of best answers, but then how can we, like Claire did, maybe give ourselves a chance of, okay, decisional balance, were they really looking pro con? No, they were just, so kind of giving ourselves that opportunity to walk through that. Thank you everyone for that one. I'm going to just, can we do two more and then we'll move on from this competency, because I see that it's already 5 to 7.
I love it. Keep going.
All righty. So I already showed this one. So if you guys already saw it, then feel free to put it in the answer, but let's try this one. A 32-year-old woman in her 3rd coaching session to work on her eating habits. Specifically, the client is concerned about her sugar intake. Client, I plan to quit sugar. I'm going to give it up completely for the next 6 months. Coach, have you thought about taking a more gradual approach? What if you just decrease your sugar intake by a little bit each week? The coach is demonstrating what? Oh, sorry, empathy, appreciative inquiry, simple reflection, and everything that you guys are all rocking it. The writing reflex. So yeah, you guys say that again.
A total writing reflex. He's telling her,
Absolutely.
he's giving her an approach to what she could do.
Got it. All right. So Jack, what are you saying with E? Do you mind sharing your insights?
I'm just messing around. I couldn't help myself.
I love it. Okay. Thank you for thank you. I know that I can count on you for some good humor. So I appreciate
There
that.
we go. There we go.
Rock on. Cheers, man. And then okay. And then remember with in the edition number 4, if you have the edition number 4 of MI, they're going to call that the fixing reflex now, but we need to know from a test standpoint the writing reflex. All righty, let's go with another one here. Okay. A client comes to their 5th session and has been working on healthier eating and getting more sleep. During this session, the client is focused on strategies for improving their vegetable intake. Coach, what went well for you this week regarding your goal of increasing your vegetable intake? Client, I got vegetables in for lunch 4 times last week. It's so hard to plan. It seems like without planning vegetables, it doesn't naturally happen. Coach, you've got vegetables in your lunch 4 times last week and are recognizing it takes effort. What type of reflection, thank you, did the coach use? Simple, double-sided, amplified, or empath? All right, so I'm seeing a lot of A's and you guys are rocking it. I got to be honest with you, this one was a little, I get that simple reflection is just basically saying what they did. There was part of me that wanted to go maybe that it was a little empathic, because they're recognizing it takes effort. But as I walked through it in my head, I'm like, okay, I can see how it would be simple. But I have to say that my first thought on this one was to go more empathic with the reflection.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm with you because the amplified, because they use the word effort, but
Mhm.
when you actually look at the definition, because I did the first thing, my first thing was like, oh, that's amplified because they changed the simple.
Mhm.
But when you actually look at the definition for amplified, you have to put a feeling, emotion into the answer. And there was no
Mhm.
feeling, emotion in here.
Right. Right.
So it would have been,
Awesome.
it takes effort and that must be frustrating, would have been amplified.
Got it.
But
Got
so
it.
I was
Thank
with
you.
you. I did the same thing. I went amplified. Oh no, it's actually simple.
Yeah. Cool. All righty. All righty. Should we say, there's on this one, there are so many, I think there's might be in this handout, maybe another 4 or 5 questions, which are really neat to go through. So this was another handout that if you haven't already looked at it, it's worth a read. But for this incredibly, very, very long and wonderful competency, is there anything else that anyone wants us to just remember or be aware of before we move on to 212? All right, all good stuff. Again, yeah, anyways, we'll just move on so that we can get the other guys going here. So I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do 212. Where's 212? Here. Alrighty. Is that what y'all are seeing? So this is about self-efficacy. So again, in 212, the coach helps the client develop self-efficacy, which is the client's belief in their ability to initiate change and achieve goals. The coaching process cultivates self-efficacy as the client better understands their needs, gains self-awareness and insight that supports behavior change. They learn from setbacks, develop new resources, and finds new ways to navigate their environment. Okay. So with this one, again, I kind of like it. The CPM, the psychology manual, talks about self-motivation and self-efficacy being the twin energies of change. We know that with MI, the key is, one of their key things about MI is evoking hope and confidence. And we know that as we a hope is wonderful. It's knowing that there's something already there, but confidence is kind of that next step, making it happen. So those are kind of our opportunities as a coach, is to pull that out of the or at least bring the awareness for the client that they have these things. Okay. So what I wanted to do here, again, feel free to jump on that handout, is looking at the fact that we're wired to dislike being told what to do. So we know that the medical model of health and wellness tends to be a top-down approach, right? So for the tradition of medicine has been do what the doctor says to do. And what we know is that people we're wired not to like being told what to do. So coaching coming in through the bottom up approach is definitely supporting kind of how we're wired as humans. At DC in the self-determination theory, I know that we just had it in 211, but this one really kind of talks about how creating an environment and holding space for a client to be connected to their deep why and for them to motivate themselves is a really powerful thing. That motivation is why we do what we do, and that there's external motivation, and then there's autonomous or automatic motivation that's tied to our meaning, our purpose, our values, and our needs. And coaching is all about connecting a client to those deeper emotions, that meaning, purpose, values, and needs. Motivation is on a continuum, and this was helpful for me to kind of think about that there's some on one side of the spectrum, it's being amotivated, that they're not motivated at all. And then we come over the continuum a little bit, and now we're in the I should do this. This is something that I should do. And that's kind of those external motivations. And then there's a threshold that all of a sudden, when we start to value the activity for the activity itself, it kind of puts us into this gloriousness of autonomous or intrinsic motivation. So, and this, it's a flow. There's a dynamic back and forth. So the more we're able to kind of get over that threshold and get into a more autonomous intrinsic motivation, the better it's going to be for the client to really hone in on that as their fuel for something. So my hope for this one is competency is to ask the question, how do we foster? So the self-determination theory talks about autonomy, competence, relatedness. Can we just put out some ideas? How would we foster in our clients having more autonomy, competence, and then relatedness? So how would we foster autonomy for our clients? One of the ways is kind of looking at focusing, right? So having them choose the topic that we're going to focus on, have them choose the goal that they're going to maybe discuss first. Those are ways of looking at autonomy, maybe in our ongoing coaching session. Does anybody else have kind of ways that they bring fostering someone's autonomy in a coaching session?
I'm trying to unmute myself. I'm sorry. So
it's all good, Sherry.
Just trying to recognize and bring out, well, you know yourself the best, and you've been through this before, and just letting them know and build up the decisions that you've made in the past, or, you know, just, I guess, exemplifying what has worked for them in the past and letting them know that you've already tried this, or how you could have done it differently, or what's changed since now. And also just promoting for them not to rely on us, but for them to look for the resources. What did you find? As opposed to us always trying to provide things to them, we need to evoke those out of them and open-end question them, so that they can know that they actually have the information, and we can say yes and agree and allow that self-efficacy to just boil up to the top and provide them with more confidence.
Awesome. Let's actually, we're going to shift into looking more at those benefits of the self-efficacy. You know, having self-efficacy, and remember that self-efficacy is a specific confidence, right? And it's different than self-esteem, which is more value, worth, purpose, kind of a global sense of value. That self-efficacy is really about a specific confidence. So that was important, at least in the well coaches, as we were going through, to have that difference noted. The importance of, and how, some of the benefits of having self-efficacy. Why would we want to build that up in a client? They handle failure. We, as people, we handle failure better. We're more resilient. We take the initiative, kind of as Sherry was sharing. Our performance is improved. We get to quiet that inner critic a little bit, maybe more effectively, with the benefit of self-efficacy. We have flow. We experience flow maybe a little bit more. We focus on effort instead of doubt. We approach challenges with less fear because we see them as opportunities rather than needing to perform in a certain way. Self-efficacy connects us to our why, to our values. It also beautifully increases our physical health and our high quality of personal relationships. So we know the benefits of self-efficacy. We know the definition. So looking at how to strengthen self-efficacy, that's where those four, we can build them by looking at physiologic or our affective states. So with this, Claire did such a beautiful job to start us off, giving us a chance to just breathe. Maybe, feel that breath inside of us. Having that mindful movement of the breath movement can be a way that we can tap into self-efficacy, because we can feel how our body feels when we focus on our breath. And now all of a sudden we might feel a little bit more confident doing diaphragmatic breath, or with ourselves or with our clients, because of that physical experience. Verbal persuasion. And remember that verbal persuasion is not cheerleading, but verbal persuasion is encouraging change talk, maybe through the darn conversation pieces, affirmations, reflections. I am going to just hold, please hold. Okay, so encouraging change talk with verbal persuasion. We can improve our self-efficacy through vicarious experiences. And that's when in a lot of these conversations, they talk about the people jumping off doing bungee jumping. And that's a way of a vicarious experience. You're looking for role models, right? And if you see, and if they're relatable, if a role model is relatable, you're just like, ooh, maybe I could do that too. Sometimes when I watch marathon runners, you see some marathon runners that you're just like, they're doing a 5-minute mile. And then you see some marathon runners who are absolutely out there at the same time that might look more like me. And I'm like, maybe I could do that, So you're looking for role models that maybe give you a sense of, hey, I can relate to them. Maybe this is something that I can do to build someone's self-efficacy. Ideally, we want the client to be their own role model. And again, Sherry was doing such a beautiful job in her example of kind of giving them an opportunity to see, hey, you've done this before, and kind of let them relate to themselves there. One other piece to building a vicarious experience is, as a tool, maybe as a coach, is to name an alter ego of yourself, right? So one example was clean Charmaine eating clean, so Charmaine is giving herself that alter ego of clean Charmaine to eat clean. Anyways, so those are some opportunities for vicarious. And then the mastery example or experiences. So that's another way we can build our self-efficacy, build and strengthen self-efficacy through how success can breed success, right? So draw upon previous successes for this opportunity. All righty. I think those are the big things I wanted to talk about with self-efficacy. Is is there anything on this competency, again, broad strokes, that you really want us to hear and share for the group opportunity of learning? All right, all good? Then we will keep moving on. Let's see. We've got 15 minutes to do 3 more. I think we can do it. All right, so let's see how quickly I can do this. We're gonna stop this one. We're going to pull up. We're on 13. We're on 13. So we're here. All right. Does that look like 13 to everyone?
Yes.
Beautiful. So improve support on this one. And I apologize, this handout kind of clips off what I wanted to share to start with. So you don't see this one. I'll be sure to do. The overview is, in addition to providing support during client sessions, a coach assists the client in developing supportive relationships and identifying community resources. The coach helps the client to build a support system, relationships, tools, resources, environments that enable ongoing success after the coach program ends. So the competencies are social, as well as structural and environmental supports. The the psychology manual, Moore's resources are really awesome on this competency, page 73, page 148 to 149. Also, Orlowski does a really nice job, 224 to 229, which is neat. One of the pieces that I wanted to say about this is this impact of social support. We know how important, we're social beings, right? So the social support is so important. I didn't realize that in the 1950s, they said that less than 10% of households were a single person living there, that 90% of all households had more than one person living in that household. And now 40 years later, in the 1990s, they said that a third of the households were now only one person living in it. And they said at this point in time, there are more single person residences, 33%, than a residence that has family and kids. That's at 31% now. There's more people who are self-employed. Also, you know, we're still probably feeling and not even going to know the impact of how the pandemic has impacted us from a social standpoint and our social health. So really kind of looking at how important it is to build these social and structural supports for our clients. They talk about in Orlowski's book, coaching is bolstering the support system, maybe the single most important work we do with clients. That the sixth stage of change, so in that theoretical model of change, the termination piece, as well as at the end of our coaching relationship with clients, really the more they have structures in place already of social support and environmental support, the more they have that in place, the more we know that termination and at the end of our coaching relationship, how important that's going to be to continue their success. I liked this competency talked about using the VIA assessment. I know that we've talked about that in the past, but that exploring strengths and values with the client can leverage them to move forward. The AI principle talks about what we appreciates. Seems a little cliche, but it's so important. Prochaska talks about the action stage being very demanding and it requires a lot of support. So really having this social support and the environmental support is so important at those times. Okay, so they talk, and it's in this handout. I'm gonna, don't get dizzy, but let me just move it down. In this little paragraph here, talking about social support, the key question asked is, who's your intimate confidant? Who can you open up when you're feeling like you need that support? And many people don't have that support. So that's where we step in. But the hope is that we're supporting them and finding ways for them to explore how to get these other, how to bolster that support as they move through our coaching opportunity with them.
It must be in Arlovsky's book.
It is, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
You bet. And then the pieces about structural and environmental support, again, with this kind of looking at brainstorming opportunities of how can they explore environmental supports, like maybe exercising with somebody or eating with somebody who's also supporting a healthy lifestyle, joining a gym with a friend or a spouse. They also talk about, if we go just a little bit further, how us as coaches can help a client appreciate their environment and how that impacts their self-regulation. Kind of like me, don't drive down a road that has, a fast food place that you might want to, you might be tempted to stop at, or, don't have chocolate in the house so that you're not, so that I'm not tempted with that. So coaching the environment can be a really proactive strategy that supports us achieving our goals. All righty. Anything there that anyone wants to share about how they explore improving support socially or environmentally for their clients?
Great job.
So far, so good?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you may need to throw in there, just looking at your references that you have there, is this may mean that we may need to do some brainstorming with the client because they're like, well, I don't have any support. So that is one thing that is mentioned on page 148 and 149.
Awesome.
I also want to just say about two experiences that I had coaching today. That self-doubter person that I was talking about.
Yeah.
He is such a huge supportive family that he didn't even recognize it. And when you keep pulling out their strengths, he kept talking about his family. And when you keep going back to that, saying, this sounds like this is this is your foundation. This is grounding for you. This is and it's like, wow, I never really looked at it that way. I guess I'm really lucky. So making them aware of their support circle is really incredible. And there was another client where kind of pulling out, he felt very isolated and was in a new community, but he's like, I really love to be outdoors. I love to be outdoors all the time, but I don't really have my friends anymore. I'm new. But he has an animal. He's like, but maybe I can go with my animal and walk more. So helping them realize that's not just people, it could be animals too, but
100%.
support comes in different ways. And the self-realization on both of the people was, you could just see it in their eyes. They felt like a less isolated place.
Yeah.
And that they had a community to go into. So those were the positive sides of things. So
that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Claire. I really appreciate that. And it's those little, like, now all of a sudden there's just, anyways, just good stuff. We'll keep on going, but
Yeah.
really good stuff. Thank you so much.
So while you're pulling up the next slide for 215, I'll just say also with the, like even within the questions that you may see or with a client that you may have, the fact that they may be complaining that, oh, you know, my kid is trying to get me to get up and go out and play ball with them. And I just, you know, this is my time where I just want to relax and watch TV. And for us to do a positive reframing on that to say, oh, your son really cares about you, to let them know that, hey, guess what? That's a positive support for you.
Yeah.
Sherry,
yeah.
that actually is a question that comes up several times when I've taken practice exams.
Me too. So I thought of that when you were
Yeah,
saying yours.
perfect.
So thank you.
Yeah. So like you complain, oh, my family wants to, I know my kid keeps saying, Dad, please stop smoking, blah, blah, blah. And then the father or the client will come and say, oh God, they're always nagging me. And then the coach comes back with, wow, they must really love you and care about you.
Yeah.
Those questions come up several times on the board. That's a reframing question.
So
And since we're
powerful.
recording, she's talking about her practice or her exam test that she took with her class and not
Yes.
the national board exam.
Correct.
She has yet to take it.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or
Thanks,
disclaimer.
Sheriff. Keeping us all on the right path there. So we're actually on 214. So this is the client active experimentation and self-discovery. So this is when a coach establishes a trusting environment where the client feels safe to experiment with new ideas and new behaviors. The coach helps the client develop a growth mindset, a belief that the client's abilities are not fixed and can be improved continuously through experimentation and persistent efforts. This competency also pulls in decisional balance. So the decisional balance helps the client evaluate the pros and cons of changing a behavior, as well as the pros and cons of not changing a behavior. So that decisional balance piece is getting its own little section here. I found this mindsetworks.com. If you haven't gone there yet, it was a really neat website in that you can take a little quick test or quiz, and you can kind of see how if you're in a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. The thing I liked about it is it it gives you your information through an email response, and it gives a little bit of a paragraph, almost like a coaching support for a client. So if a client's taking this link and looking at this quiz, it gives them a little bit more of a sense of what's going on. If you don't mind, I'm going to click down again. Just be good to your eyes for a second. This is this online quiz to discover. It's mindsetworks.com. And if you do a / and punch in what-s-my-mindset, I'll put that link in the chat, or I just typed so slow. I'll put it in the chat, but it's mindsetwork.com / what-s, the letter s-my-mindset. And essentially this quiz comes up. These are the questions, and then these are your options. And then as you go through it, it'll punch out and tell you if you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Another thing that I found interesting in this is, I'm going to come up again. Sorry for the eyes. A big reason this matters is that people with a fixed mindset are more likely to take on performance goals. So when we're working with a client, if they're saying, if they're choosing a lot of performance goals, they might not stretch as much because they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to succeed on that that performance goal. People with a growth mindset are more likely to take learning goals, since the point is to learn and grow versus the completion. So this was kind of a neat way of looking at goals, between performance goals and learning goals. Another thing that I found cool on this beautiful handout that this wonderful person made is kind of looking at, not only is it about how the client is, whether they have a fixed mindset or growth mindset, teachers / coaches, if we have a fixed mindset, we might tend to want to default to more comfort oriented feedback. And if we have more of a growth mindset, we might tend to give feedback that has more strategy oriented. Let's try it again. What can we do to make this, what could you do to make this work next time? So seeing how growth and fixed mindsets play a part in both of these was really neat. There's a great, and I'm sorry, I forget where this picture came from, which book it came from, but it's a nice little walkabout schematic on fixed and growth mindsets. Another piece on this one is, just really bringing it to the real, not the real word, but giving an example of, a child when they're learning to walk, it's all on performance, right? Not in performance, it's all about learning. What strategy do I need to do to stay upright when I'm walking? And they just keep on giving themselves opportunities to learn with that. All right, again, a wonderful handout. They talk about they talk about some nice differential pieces between what's MI and what's decisional balance. So please enjoy this handout that this person did. And they also, equipoise, am I saying that correctly? Equipoise? If anyone knows how to say that more accurately, please feel free to chime in. But this was interesting to explore decisional balance with an idea of really going into it in a neutral way. So when you're doing decisional balance with somebody, to really bring some neutrality to looking at it, so that you're not influencing someone to think that one way is, to stay the same or to change is better or worse, and just really giving them an opportunity to explore that with neutrality. Neutrality is important. It's interesting to see how many different ways the decisional balance is brought up, and how many different ways, do you do it in a clockwise position? Do you do it in a linear position? So there's different ways that the different authors have explored how to do a decisional balance. They talk about the rulers, absolutely, again. Yeah, anyways, it's a wonderful handout to continue to enjoy. Thank you for putting it in the link so that everyone gets to enjoy it if they haven't already. Anybody have questions or comments or nuances about growth mindset or decisional balance that you want the team to hear?
I hope I'm not going to misspeak, but in a subgroup, we noticed some test questions that we took together that when they used the word yet, that the answer was growth mindset, as opposed to even whenever it seemed like it was positive psychology, the answer is actually growth mindset. So if you're seeing yet in the answers to some of the practice test questions, and even one of the practice test questions from the board that was purchased, we did notice the yet, and they specifically said the belief that clients' ability are not fixed and can be improved continuously through experimental and persistent efforts, which is essentially exactly what it says in the 2.14 summary.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
then
brilliant.
I'm just gonna bring back the fact that Claire said that the pros and cons with the decisional balance, because that was a golden nugget. She laid a great golden egg, I think. You're using that when it's talking about ambivalence.
Yes, and that's in the contemplation stage in TTA.
Yes.
And that's it shows up in every practice test anywhere I've taken it. I just wanted to comment on the two mindsets. Another thing that has come up in practice exams, like nothing specific, but when you have a fixed mindset, these are the 5 things that come up. It's the challenges, the obstacles, the effort, the criticism, and success of others. So
You
that's
mind saying that one more time, Claire?
Sure. So when you have a fixed mindset, when it comes to challenges, you avoid, and a growth mindset, you embrace. When it comes to obstacles, a fixed mindset gives up, and a growth mindset persists in the face of obstacles. In a fixed mindset for effort, you see effort as fruitless or worthless, not worthing to do it. But in the growth mindset for effort, you see it as a path to mastery. When it comes to criticism, in the fixed mindset, you ignore useful negative feedback. And the growth mindset, you learn from criticism. And when it comes to success of others, fixed mindset, you feel threatened by the success of others. And in the growth mindset, you find lessons and inspiration of others. So the 5 categories are challenges, obstacles, effort, criticism, and success of others. And this is by Carol Zweck, PhD.
Yeah.
So she referenced in these. So those are the 5 mindsets that they reference. So when you're in fix for challenges, you avoid. When you have obstacles, you give up. When you have effort, you see useless or you don't even want to go for it. Criticism, you ignore the negative feedback. And when you're looking at success of others, you feel threatened and do not want their success. So those are the fixed mindsets.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that all that beautiful information is on that website, the mindsetworks.com website, if you want further to further dive into what Claire just shared with us. All right, I know that it's 7:37. We're on our last one. Can we power through for like 2 or 3 more minutes?
Keep going. If people
Okay.
need to drop off, they'll drop off. I love it. Keep going.
Fabulous. All righty. So last one, 2.15, increase positive psychological resources. Basically what we've been talking about almost all night and definitely within our coaching curriculums. The overview of this competency is the coach helps the client develop positive psychological resources by cultivating meaning, reflecting positive emotions, applying strengths, and affirming self-worth and efforts. Positive psychology has demonstrated the value of positive resources on improving creativity, open-mindedness, strategic thinking, resilience, connection, and health. I think we kind of started this with the CPM, Meg Moore talking about the power of positive emotions and positive thoughts in from a brain health standpoint. The competencies we're looking at the skills and ability to increase positive psychological resources, the skills and ability, the efforts, the progress, the successes, the insights and learning, strengths, the client's being. We talked initially about our coaches being and how important that is, but the clients being their values, their quality, their self-worth is real important here. Positive emotions, gratitude, acceptance, compassion, optimism, and resilience. So again, this is a beautiful handout. Some of the things that I wanted to bring up, I think last week, Jennifer started our session about kind of what's something positive that happened. So thank you, Jennifer. You were kind of setting us up for this competency, because we often take things for granted with what we're doing right. So we need to hear it. Our clients need to hear it. Again, what we appreciates. Arlosky does a really nice job of kind of talking about this, 189 to 193. We talk about yeah. All right, some of these we've already kind of talked about. The other thing that I wanted to talk on this specific one is the PERMA model in I think it was in the CPM book, but they talk about how positive psychology, when it first came on, was a little bit of a, just really positive, like just really focused just on positive stuff. But then in 2011, there was some chatter, and let me just find the exact, there was some chatter about how not talking about the negative or not even giving it space isn't a really healthy thing. It's really about a balance between the positive and negative. So negative emotions and kind of finding a way of holding space for both of them, because what we know about negative emotions is it can keep us, it can help us if there's a dangerous situation going on, but it also can communicate unmet needs. So if we're feeling a negative emotion, we can get information out of that that's a positive thing. So that's when they changed their positive psychology and brought in the PERMA model. Again, it's at just watch your eyes for a second. It's at the end here. So this PERMA model, the idea was to take in a little bit more of these negative, to find a way of having a conversation about negative emotions. So they're flourishing and kind of looking at this self-care model of positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. They talk about with AI, which is more kind of just looking at that positive, really focusing on the positive things. It's a great place to start when a client doesn't have a clear focus. But again, you want to have a way of managing and talking about negative emotions in a positive light. And that was kind of what I took away from looking at the shift with positive psychology. Again, this handout does a nice job of looking a little bit more specifically at the 5 principles of AI, and how all of these principles kind of build on each other in this pyramid kind of way. Talking about the 5D cycle of appreciative inquiry, that is so alive in so many different places of our coaching, and really taking advantage of this beautiful tool, especially the discovery piece, that discovery part of the 5D cycles. They talk a lot of the times how it's it's the most important phase, that it really is able to elevate confidence, laying the foundation when the client needs a little movement forward, progression forward. And using as a tool when we're talking about discoveries, asking about best experiences, asking about these values, these generative conditions, the 3 wishes are really nice ways of supporting this competency of looking for ways of increasing positive psychological resources using these tools. Okay, does anyone have anything about AI, about looking at positive psychology, or anything in this section that you want to highlight for the team to get a sense of?
Yeah, well, you know me, I'm going to chime in.
I love it. Bring
It's
it.
Claire.
Bring it. I love it. Thank you.
So I just want to talk about the positive psychology model because it's really important in how the trend of how health coaching has come about. Because psychotherapy was built on looking back and delving into your past, your childhood trauma, or dysfunctional families, etc., which whatever it is, which continues to wreak havoc in adulthood. And those pharmaceutical companies, bless them for goodness and badness, they decided to, these SSRIs and other psychotropics were just given to everyone. And you might remember a cover of a Time magazine, I think it was Prozac Nation. So everyone just started being given medications, even for the less risky populations. So the less risky populations are the populations we're looking at. There's just daily lifestyle stuff, not the true people that are having really trauma and family dysfunction that therapy is there for. So this is where the positive psychology model grew out of. And it was to take the less risky populations and work with them to enhance happiness, contentment, empathy, coping skills, which became CBT and dialectic training. So all these new skills came about of self-efficacy, where you have it in you. You don't need to jump into what the doctors are giving you. And so it's really cultivation of your values and aligning your purpose and meaning, increasing this positive emotions, blah, blah, blah. But that's where it really came about. Was there was a pivotal point where there were so many drugs just being given to everyone. And it was a blanket statement, like, you're not feeling good today? Everyone take these SSRIs, and that kind of diminished the ability of us to figure it out ourselves and come up with the coping mechanisms and coming up with the self-efficacy and self-determination. So that was the crux of the positivity psychology. So, yeah, that's my whatever.
Thank you for being our Paul Harvey, giving us the rest of the story. I so appreciate it. I'm dating myself a little bit, but that is brilliant. Thank you so much.
And I'm also always tapping in, but when you were going back and talking about not ignoring the negative, that was competency 2.3 and 2.4. So yes, you were right on it. So we don't need to forget about that. And you were referring to that. So thank you for doing that to remind us all of that, how important that is, that we don't dwell on it, but we need to pay attention to this, to the nonviolent communication and the emotional intelligence, right?
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You did a fantastic job, Sarah.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you.
It was an absolute joy, but thank you for everybody for being there, those that talked and those that didn't talk and just were holding space for us all to learn together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So if anybody wants to say anything. Okay. Oops.
I would just like to